The chief executive of Russian airline Aeroflot has been forced off the board of IATA, which is the global trade body for airlines, after being sanctioned by the West. Mikhail Polyobuyinov is said to be an important ally of Putin. Russia's invasion of Ukraine is having a huge impact on air travel, not to mention because of the high oil prices, and many airlines have been cancelling flights to and from Russia. In addition, lots of aeroplanes have been stranded in Russia. John Grant is a partner at consultancy Midas Aviation. John, thanks ever so much for joining us. Now, Aeroflot's effectively been banned from flying outside Russia. Now its chief executive has been booted off this global trade body. How significant is that?
It's another step in a global series of events, and it was inevitable. I mean, other airlines are calling for even deeper sanctions to be taken by IATA, the International Airline Association. So this was, this was almost inevitable and reflects where we are around the world, I think.
Something else that reflects where we are around the world is rising energy costs. Be for global airlines. I know a lot of them have paid ahead. They paid up in advance, so they've booked the next 6 months, the next year, but then it's getting tricky.
That's right. So it depends which airline you are. There are some airlines who are sitting in relatively comfortable space at the moment. People like Ryanair, Virgin Atlantic and some others who hedged probably about 60 to 70% of their forward requirements for the next 6 months. And then you have a carrier like Wizz Air who hadn't hedged. And Wizz Air also were quite strong in the Ukraine and Central and Eastern Europe. So, they've had a bit of a double hit. Ultimately, though, the price of fuel has gone up. It was inevitable post the pandemic because the global economy was picking up. What we're now seeing, of course, is this double impact from the crisis that's occurring in the Ukraine. Airlines will pass this through to their customers. It is inevitable that in the next few weeks we will see additional fuel surcharges imposed by airlines around the world. And, for those people who've got the ability, if you can book now a couple of weeks ahead of that and get in early, then, you might be able to still grab a bargain for the summer, but those fares are going to go up for sure.
And this is turmoil that is just presumably the last thing that the aviation sector needs after just having those seeds of recovery after the pandemic plunged it into turmoil.
Absolutely. So, this week we're looking at about 82 million seats globally around the world. And that compares to 106 and 107 million in 2019. And in 2020, we were down at about 62 million. So we have a recovery underway. There is no doubt about that. And we are seeing more markets open, particularly for international travel. So, we've seen Australia open recently, New Zealand's opening its borders, Malaysia opens on the 1st of April. So we have more countries opening. But until we really see some of the major northeastern markets, such as Japan and China, reopening for international travel, and there is absolutely no sign of that happening at the moment, then, we're probably going to float at peak about 94, 95 million seats in July and August, compared to what would have been 115 3 years ago.
And what do you say that the Ukraine crisis is going to mean for Russian aviation? Because it's a sector that's been absolutely ostracised. So, what about the future? Will there be a smaller Russian aviation sector? Will there be no international travel? And how long is it going to take to build back?
Well, it's going to take a very long time. Nearly every commercial aircraft operated in Russia is either an Airbus or a Boeing piece of equipment. And the sanctions are going to start hitting very hard soon because they're not going to have access to spares and other necessary parts to keep their fleets flying. And once that happens, there is no replacement aircraft provider anywhere in the world. Russia produces its own aircraft or has attempted to produce its own aircraft. They have been shambolic. They've not been delivered on time. They've not produced the fuel efficiency that they were designed to produce. So the industry is going to go step a long, long way back. And that means that for Russian aviation, we'll see fewer flights. We'll probably see higher fares because they'll still need people to travel. It's a vast country. And sometimes a journey from the west to the east of Russia is an 8.5-hour flight. It's a long haul journey. So they're going to be severely impacted, and there's no great urgency on the part of anyone else to assist in that process and in the recovery. You know, airlines are flying and finding alternate routes around Russian airspace. And whilst a couple are more impacted than others, quite frankly, if fuel came back to its normal prices, then some of those routings would be significantly cheaper than flying over Russian airspace. You know, this is from an aviation perspective, it's a massive own goal that they have scored in recent weeks.
Massive own goal. John Grant at Midas Aviation, thank you.
You're welcome.